Hello and welcome to this session. This is Professor Farhat, in which we will start to discuss SOC engagement. And SOC stands for System and Organization Controls. Before we discuss SOC, we need to define certain terms. And the reason we need to learn about SOC or SOC engagement, because that's a major topic on the CPA exam, specifically Information Systems and Control. So before you dive into the details, you want to learn the basic components, the basic pieces of the SOC engagement. And this is what we will discuss in this recording, including an overview of the three reports, starting with the term service organization. So organizations frequently form partnership with external entities to delegate, simply put, outsource important services and business functions. For example, a company would like to outsource their IT support team. So they don't want to have their own IT support team because it's costly, it's time consuming. They want to focus on their own business. Therefore, what they do, they choose a company, an IT company, and that company will handle your IT services. So in this partnership, the organization that outsources the work is called user entity. So the company that outsources their work to someone else is a user entity, while the external organization that provides the service, the IT service, is called service organization. I'm going to be a little bit more specific soon. I just want to give you the general idea here. So a service organization lends its staff, experience, equipment, and technology to the user entity. And this arrangement allows the user entity, the company that outsources their business, to focus on their business. This way, they don't want to waste time on IT services or payroll or HR services or certain bookkeeping services. There are so many things you can outsource. I'm just giving IT and payroll or human resources as an example. Now, why do companies outsource too? Well, there are many reasons. They want to use the expertise of this firm, and usually outsourcing is cost efficient. In other words, if you handle the service with a third party, if you let the third party handles your IT services or your data storage or your payroll, they have more experience in this business and it's going to cost you less relative to you handling these services. So that's why you outsource. Now let's go ahead and start to dig a little bit deeper into this service organization. So what I'm going to... Before we proceed any further, I have a public announcement about my company, farhatlectures.com. Farhat Accounting Lectures is a supplemental educational tool that's going to help you with your CPA exam preparation as well as your accounting courses. My CPA material is aligned with your CPA review course such as Becker, Roger, Wiley, Gleam, Miles. My accounting courses are aligned with your accounting courses, broken down by chapter and topics. My resources consist of lectures, multiple choice questions, true-false questions, as well as exercises. Go ahead, start your free trial today. I'm going to use a simple example, which is farhatlectures.com. This is the user entity. I am the user entity. I have a company and I would like to have an IT support team, but I'm not large enough to hire full-time IT support people because it's costly for me. I don't know how to select the right team. That's not what I do. I don't provide IT support. So what I do, I'll go to a company that's all what it does. They provide IT support for companies like mine. And this IT support is called the service organization. Now, this IT support will provide services to Farhat Lectures. So in case something happened with my IT information system, I can reach out. When I want to update software, I can reach out. When I want to make any changes to my website, I would reach out to them. Therefore, what I want you to see is this IT company is a small part of my company. I might also have, for example, payroll as well, outsource payroll. I could also outsource HR if I have a need to outsource, if I have a need of HR and outsource HR. So what happened is this, although it's not my company, but it's integrated somehow with my company. Now I also have auditor. Farhat Lectures gets audited by an independent auditor. And these auditors do what? Audit the financial statement of Farhat Lectures. That's what they do. That's great. Now, when the auditor needs to audit your company, they need to audit your overall company, everything that deals with your company. And part of your company is this small area, this IT area, That's not really part of your company. It's part of your company, but it's part of this IT service. I'm gonna call it best IT service. Okay. So what would my auditor request? My auditor might request that this IT service ask their auditor, which we're going to call the service auditor, to issue a report, because this IT company, this best, let's call it best with an S, this best IT service company will also have their own auditor. We're going to call it the service auditor. So that's called, my independent auditor is PwC, and their auditor is KPMG. Just kind of, it's two different auditors. So what happened is this. PwC needs to audit Farhat Lectures, but at the same time, part of Farhat internal control, their IT department, is not really Farhat Lectures. It's being run by Best IT Support, which is audited by KPMG. Now, what will we ask? We're going to ask KPMG to issue a certain report, a SOC engagement report, to provide to us, to get some assurance, some comfort that the controls at this best IT service is suitable for our purposes. So this auditor will issue maybe a SOC 1 report, depending on what we're looking for, SOC 2, SOC 3. We're going to see at these different reports. And this is basically what we're looking at. So you need to be familiar with what's a service auditor, what's a service organization, what's a user entity. Because I'm going to be throwing these words around, I want to make sure you understand them. Also, before I hire Best IT Service, I want to take a look at their controls. I want to see how well they are managing their privacy, they are managing their security, they are managing the confidentiality, because they're going to be handling my data. Therefore, I'm going to ask for these reports. So we're going to learn about SOC 1, SOC 2, and SOC 3. Let's kind of re-summarize what we just did. The user entity, which is Farhat Lectures, and their business partners like the external auditor often need detailed information how the service organization, Best IT Service, manages and control its operation. This includes insight into the description, setup, functionality, and effectiveness of their control. Because we are dealing with them, therefore we need to know more about them. So to help evaluate their control, what we're going to do, we're going to request a system and organizational control, a SOC report from the service organization. And we could have many SOC reports depending on what are we looking for. We could have SOC 1, SOC 2, and SOC 3. So this report is generated through an examination, through a SOC examination by a CPA known as the service auditor. And we said for our purposes, KPMG. This examination follows the attestation standard set by the AI CPA. So a SOC engagement is an attestation standard governed by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountant. So we're going to look at each report separately. SOC 1, what is SOC 1? What is SOC 2? What is SOC 3? This is the purpose of this lesson. So the SOC 1 report, officially titled SOC 1 for Service Organization, great. Internal control over financial reporting. Guess what? Guess what is this SOC 1 report is about? Internal control over financial reporting. So SOC 1 deals with internal control over financial reporting. It focuses on examining and reporting control within the service organization that are important for the financial reporting process of user's entity. So the SOC 1 report deals with the internal control at the service organization. This type of report is specifically designed to assess whether the service organization, the IT company, has the appropriate controls in place that affect what? The financial statement. So IC over financial statement, and that is SOC 1. SOC 1 report, the main objective is to evaluate the control at the service organization that directly relate to the internal financial reporting of their client organization, which is the user entity, Farhat Lectures. And this is to make sure that the user's entity, Farhat Lectures, can rely on these control when preparing their own financial statement or when the auditor of Farhat Lectures is auditing Farhat Lectures. So SOC 1 report, what you have to know is these reports are not publicly available. They are restricted to a specific group of stakeholders. Who are these groups of stakeholders? First, they need to give me a report. The management, well, let's start with the company itself. They need to give a report to the service organization, to the best IT support company. This report helps the management understand and manage the control relevant to the service provider. They're going to give me Farhat Lectures, the user entity. I need to know what's going on at Best IT. Companies that outsource some of their operation use this report to assess how the service company, service organization impact their financial reporting, and my auditor, which as we said, it's going to be PwC for the sake of illustration. These auditors use SOC 1 report to inform their own audit of the user's entity financial statement, especially in evaluating the risk of material misstatement due to outsourced process. The SOC 1 report, what we need to know is cannot be used for public purpose, and it cannot be used for potential client. So you cannot give this report to potential clients, nor you can give it to the public. This is specific to the three parties we looked at earlier: the management of the service company, the user entities, and the auditor of the user's entity, which is the auditor of Farhat Lectures. They are specific to the current user's entity and their auditor to ensure that sensitive and detailed information about the internal control remain confidential and is used appropriately for financial reporting oversight. So to summarize, SOC 1 is IC over financial reporting, and the audience is limited. Let's take a look at SOC 2. SOC 2, titled SOC 2 for Service Organization, Trust Service Criteria. Well, what does trust service criteria focuses on? Those are the AICPA trust service criteria. They focus on the security, availability, processing integrity, confidentiality, and the privacy of the system used by the service company. Here what we're looking at is we're looking at the service company, their system, and we're evaluating. We want to know more about their privacy, confidentiality, processing integrity, ability, and security. Think about it from the user's perspective. Think of it from Farhat Lectures. If I'm outsourcing my IT or my payroll or my HR to best IT service, I want to know how do they handle their privacy, how do they handle my confidentiality, processing integrity of their system, the availability of their resources, and of course, is everything secure there? So this report evaluates how well the service organization manages those key aspects known as the trust service criteria by the AICPA. And we're going to talk about those much more in details. We're going to have one whole session about them, which are essential for protecting and managing data processed by the system of the service organization. Let's define each one of them fairly quickly. Availability is what? I want to make sure that the system and information are available for operation and use as committed or agreed. So if I told them you are maintaining my IT support, when one of my customers, one of my employees call them, they're available, the system is available. Processing integrity, handling processing accurately. When someone processes a payment, well, it's handled properly and it's submitted in a timely manner. Confidentiality, protecting information designed as confidential from unauthorized disclosure. Well, if my customers are making a payment or using their credit card, I want to make sure, and you're handling this for me, this information is confidential. Privacy, ensuring that personal information is collected, used, retained, disclosed, and disposed of, and conformity with the commitment and the entity's privacy notice, whatever that privacy notice happens to be. And all in all, security means protecting information and system from unauthorized access, use, or modification. Without security, everything else is compromised. Now, the SOC 2 report, you have to understand the SOC 2 report, unlike SOC 1. So unlike SOC 1, are geared toward users who have a thorough, deep understanding of the service organization. These users are generally stakeholders with significant reliance on the control of the service organization concerning security, availability, processing integrity, confidentiality, and privacy. What we're trying to say is this. We're going to make this point clear in a moment. That SOC 2, the audience of SOC 2, are users with thorough understanding. They really understand the service organization. They have a good understanding of its business. And what do we mean by thorough understanding? It means they understand the nature of the service provided. This includes the scope of the work and the objective that these services are intended to fulfill. So they understand very well what the service organization is trying to do. 2, their system interaction, the service organization system interactions, knowing how the service organization system interact with the user's entity. Also, sub-service organization, third party that the service organization may also outsource some task to. So also the service organization, they might outsource their own payroll or they might outsource their own HR. This is crucial for understanding the flow of information and the dependency within the service framework. Now I'm going to go over eight points discussing thorough understanding. There's a purpose for this, and the purpose is to emphasize who's SOC 2 targeting. Internal control and its limitation. Users of SOC 2 will have a good understanding about internal control and about its inherent limitations. So they understand that internal control are not perfect. They understand this because they are sophisticated. They have a thorough understanding of the service organization. Complementary user entity control. They also are familiar with the user entity. They are familiar with my work, with my business, being aware of the control that the user entity must implement on their end to ensure effectiveness. So they are familiar with what I need to do in order to have a good system. These are necessary to fill any control gaps that exist due to the way services are provided. They don't only understand the service organization, they understand the user's entity as well, because they want to know how do they complement each other, how do they integrate, how do they control gaps. Also, these individuals understand the control that the subservice organization are expected to maintain. Subservice, it means the service organization have their own service organization. User entity responsibilities. They understand Farhat lectures, knowing the responsibility that the user's entity have in context of the service provided. This includes tasks they must perform, your system needs to be clean, or condition must be met to ensure that services are used effectively. Applicable trust service criteria. They understand what does it mean. Security, availability, processing integrity, confidentiality, and privacy. They understand this in depth. And risk impacting service commitment and system requirement. And they understand all the risk that is affecting the service commitment. The point we're trying to make from emphasizing those 8 points or those thorough understanding is to make sure that you understand SOC 2 report is targeted specified party who are directly involved with or affected by the service organization operation and who possess expertise to understand the complexity of the SOC 2 report. So simply put, the SOC 2 report is designed for people with thorough knowledge of the business of the service organization, a thorough knowledge of the business of the user's entity. It's the people that really know what's going on. This is what the SOC 2 report is about, but it's about the service trust criteria, confidentiality, privacy, security. That's what they're looking at, but they're looking at it from a details perspective, from a technical perspective. Let's move on to SOC 3, but before we move on to SOC 3, let's go back and review SOC 1. SOC 1 is about internal control over financial reporting. SOC 2, we just covered SOC 2, is about trust services criteria. How about SOC 3? SOC 3 reads the title, Trust Services Criteria, Notice for General Use Report. If you remember, the SOC 2 was for specific use, for specific type of people that have expertise, the thorough knowledge. And now I hope now you understand why I went through 8 boring detailed points, because I wanted to make the point that SOC 2 is designed for this group. In contrast to SOC 3 that's designed for the general public, for the general use public. They share similarities with SOC 2 in terms of the examination focus, which is the trust service criteria, but differ significantly in accessibility, who has access to it, and the level of detail. The SOC 3 report also assesses the effectiveness of the control within a service organization. It's about what? It's about security, availability, processing integrity, confidentiality, and privacy. However, the report now is for a specific, not for a specific group, it's for the general public, and the detailed level is totally different because the general public don't understand on the same level that SOC 2 group understand. So the detailed is different. So level of details, unlike SOC 2 report, which include detailed description, the specific controls employed, and the outcome of the auditor test, SOC 3 omits these detailed descriptions. So they don't go in depth. It does not present the auditor test of control or the results, making it less detailed and less technical. Why? Because who's using this report? The public, and we assume that the public don't understand. If you include all of this, you will confuse them. So the SOC 3 report is designed for the general users, those who require assurance about the service organization over security, availability, processing integrity, confidentiality, and privacy, but they don't need in-depth information. They don't need it because they don't understand it. That's why they don't have the expertise, but they want to make sure that the information is secure, confidential, we're maintaining privacy, processing integrity. And this could include current customers. This could include potential. So SOC 3 could be used for potential versus SOC 2 cannot be used for potential. Also, partners, current and potential, or other stakeholders without the expertise to fully understand the more technical SOC 2 report. So more about SOC 2. SOC 2 report simplifies the information provided, making it more accessible and understandable for a broader audience. It focuses basically on confirming whether the controls are effective in achieving the stated objective based on the applicable trust criteria, but without the technical complexity and exhaustive detail found in SOC 2 report. Yes, I know I'm repeating myself, and the reason I'm repeating myself because that's what you're going to be tested on, about the differences between the two. Let's have a summary. This page will summarize everything that we just did. And you're saying, why didn't you start here? I don't like to start here. I want to explain it step by step. SOC 1, IC over financial reporting, the audience, management of the service organization, the users, entity, and their auditors. The detailed description of the control test result specific to the financial reporting. For what purpose? To provide assurance on the effectiveness of control impacting financial reporting. That's SOC 1. And once we go to SOC 2, SOC 2 is about what? SOC 2 is about security, availability, processing integrity, confidentiality, and privacy. Simply put, the trust service criteria by the SEC. SOC 2, users with sufficient knowledge, management oversight parties or regulator. What should it include? It includes description of the system, control, test of a control, and the details. And to provide details on assurance and operational compliance in accordance with the specific criteria. SOC 3, the primary focus, same as SOC 2. However, the audience is different, the general public or other stakeholders without the need for the detailed technical understanding. The content of the report, the general report without detailed system description or test the result, it's less specific. It's to provide assurance on control related to security, privacy, confidentiality, suitable for wide distribution. So I hope this is a good overview, a summary. So if you got confused as I'm going through this, hopefully this will summarize it. Now in the next session, we're going to look at type 1. There's a type 1 report and type 2 report. And we're going to see how this type 1 and type 2 fits for SOC 1, SOC 2, and SOC 3. But before we end, let's go over a multiple choice question to test our knowledge from farhatlectures.com. A company outsourced its payroll processing to a service organization. Which SOC report would be most appropriate for the company to request to assess control over financial reporting? So you're outsourcing your payroll, but your concern now is internal control over financial reporting. Would you request a SOC 1, a SOC 2, a SOC 3, none of the above? So which one deals with internal control over financial reporting? And hopefully we know that it's SOC 1 because SOC 2 and SOC 3 deal with trust criteria. So SOC 1 reports specifically on the internal control over financial reporting, which deals with payroll processing. SOC 2 deals with security, availability, processing integrity, confidentiality, and privacy, which are the trust criteria according to the ISC CPA. And you might see some of these questions on the CPA exam. That's what they're going to test you about. Do you know the difference between SOC 1, SOC 2, and SOC 3? And this is a sample example of it. What should you do? Now you're going to go to Farhat Lectures, look at additional resources such as multiple choice questions that's going to help you, especially if you're studying for your information systems and controls exam. Invest in yourself. Good luck. Farhat is always here to help, and stay safe.